Hey, Go to St. Lumber, serving the Bay Area for 3 generations. When you succeed, we succeed. Visit GoToStLumber.com, 888-957-9570. Anybody freaking out over Trent Williams holding out here? He's holding out. He wants new money. Shanahan told us, though, he's not worried.
It was something I knew could be a possibility. I mean, I was hoping that he would be here, but I knew it could be a possibility, and I feel pretty confident that it'll all work out in the long run, and he'll be here, and we'll get on the same page with everything, but it's just one day of practice, and I think Trent will be all right missing a few practices.
And then the Ayuk situation. Any update on Ayuk after day one?
I mean, it's been one day with him, and I think he's coming in with the plan that's been obvious so far. He's holding in, and we'll see how it goes each day.
That's Shanahan yesterday after the first day of training camp practice in shirts and skins. We know who looked good in shirts and skins. Debo looked good. Juwan Jennings looked good. Calvin looked good.
Debo looked incredible.
Debo looked incredible. He looked Shanahan real quick on that.
I think Debo looks great. I thought he looked great in OTAs and minicamp, and I think he looked better today.
Debo looked like he's getting ready for a contract year. That's what I saw from Debo Samuel. He looks like he's going to be another guy next offseason saying, yeah, what about me? I'm ready for some new money. He looks primed for a big season, even though there's no shoulder pads or whatnot. You can just look at the body. You look at how he slimmed down. The muscles are popping out, the arms, the legs. Debo looked different than anybody else on that practice field yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He looked really chiseled. I mean, it's
shirts and skins. I mean, we can't go too crazy, but.
Yeah, it's just, I always think about this. Like, this team lost a heartbreaking Super Bowl in overtime.
Yep.
And now they're down at the bottom of the hill, and they got to crawl their way all the way back up the hill. And there's a bounce I was hoping to see yesterday, and I think with no fans and no pads, you weren't going to necessarily get that same bounce. Fred Warner had it. I thought Debo had it. It was kind of a ho-hum day.
Yeah, first day, kind of like spring ball. You're not hitting anybody. The intensity wasn't there with the fans, right? The fans weren't there yesterday. I think they come today. The first time the fans were in the training camp practice today, so I think there will be a little juice. And then when the pads come on, when do the pads come on? Do they come on Saturday?
I don't know.
Is that the first day the pads come on? Maybe Saturday. I could be wrong there. We could ask somebody out there when the pads come on. Maybe it's next week on Monday. Maybe it's Saturday. But there wasn't as much juice as you would like. That's okay. But you know the feeling got Shasky? As we look at Trent Williams and he's holding out and Brandon Ayuk is holding in and you see Debo and Kittle out there and you see Shanahan, it certainly feels like this is the last ride with this group. It just has that feeling when you walk on the practice field, and they know it, we know it, and there's some built-in pressure to get back to the mountaintop. I still think that Super Bowl loss is lingering over this organization. I don't think they've quite gotten over it yet.
How can you?
Yeah.
I mean, like the last time they lost the Super Bowl, it felt, and obviously COVID was just, it's the outlier of outliers. It took them, a full year to get over it?
Yeah.
It felt like it hung over everything that they did. Yep. And I think it's going to be really difficult to even win a couple of playoff games this year. Just given how deep they've gone year after year, how many moving parts they have going on. I mean, your point about it being the last one.
Right.
It'd be hard for me to not say that looking out onto that field, the second if they give them $65, $70 million, everything's different.
Yeah.
And the same conversation that you and I have been having is being had right now in Miami over Tua Tagovailoa. It was happening in the war room for Daniel Jones and the New York Giants on Hard Knocks. It happened already this year for the LA Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. And I keep coming back to Purdy. And I know everyone's like, you got to give him $50 million and you got to give him this and you got to give him that. I want to see this year play out. Seeing the way everyone's got their hand out on this team and seeing where all the money is and everything like that, like if you have any opportunity to be able to save some money, given everybody squeezing you for every nickel, you have to do it as an organization. And it's not that you don't love Brock Purdy, and it's not that you don't think that he's a good player, and all those things can be true. But like as I'm noticing right now, very few times does the organization have an opportunity to kind of like push back a little in these contract negotiations. And if they could squeeze Purdy down a little. They have to do it to make the team overall around him better.
Well, here's the deal. Let's just look at the field. Forget the money for a second. Let's just look at what we saw at practice yesterday. There's no Brandon Ayuk, and his absence was very noticeable. Very noticeable.
Trent Taylor was running in the starting lineup at times.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Trent Taylor's not a starting wide receiver.
Danny Gray's not a starting wide receiver.
No.
Come
Although
on.
he did make a couple of really nice intermediate catches.
Jawan Jennings popped, and I thought I was like, wow, could Jawan Jennings maybe take out that role if Brandon Ayuk does not hit the field at all this season, even though I doubt that to happen. But Ayuk's absence was very noticeable yesterday.
I agree with that.
And I think the one thing that you asked me a couple days ago, what should Brock Purdy improve on? He's a good quarterback. He really is. I don't we'll play the keep to leave sound. He said, if Ayuk had a better quarterback, he'd be I'm not buying that. Brock Purdy is a top 7 quarterback in this league right now. But there is room for improvement. And what I asked for from Brock Purdy in terms of improvement is throwing outside the numbers and throwing a deep ball when it's presented to you. Downfield accuracy and throwing outside the numbers with some velocity and getting those balls there. And he needs to work on that. Yesterday, the deep ball did not look good. It just didn't. Outside the numbers, he's got to improve on that. And so when I think about $60 million a year quarterbacks, they're throwing from the left hash to the out route, to the right sideline, and they're hitting it on the dime. They're converting on these deep passes, these deep shots that present themselves every, 3 times a game? And you got to hit on them. You got to hit those home runs. If you don't hit those home runs, well, maybe you're going on a 15-play drive where you're settling for a field goal. Sometimes you need those 4-play, 75-yard drives, those quick hitters. He's got to work on the deep ball, and he's got to work on throwing outside the numbers. And if he doesn't improve in those areas, then paying the guy $60 million who can't, who's inconsistent throwing outside the numbers and inconsistent throwing deep down the field, which we saw in the playoffs and what we saw yesterday in practice, then we gotta have a conversation about the money, because intermediate 10 to 15 yards, Brock Purdy's money all day long. Yeah. Money all day long.
Money.
But the difference in the Mahomeses and the Allens and the Burrows is they throw outside the numbers and they make their deep shots count.
There's also an element that we have not had the opportunity to play itself out, which we don't know. We don't know. But when you go with a bunch of younger guys on offense and you're the senior leader, you've got to be more of a leader and got to be more vocal. Now, when you're on a team with Kittle and Ayuk and Debo and Big Trent, those guys know where they need to be. So Purdy doesn't have to be the guy go over there, do this, and be demonstrative, right? But as you age and as you become one of the older players on the team and a guy making the most money on the team,
right,
we will see if that leadership, you know what I'm talking about. When I watch, and I've seen a lot of criticism regarding Josh Allen. I watch a lot of Josh Allen games because he's been my quarterback a couple times in fantasy. And
same here.
And I just love watching him.
Yeah.
That guy has the moxie at the line. Now, we could argue about forcing balls into coverage and, hey, take a little off certain throws, but there's a leadership quality. Tom Brady clearly had it. Peyton Manning clearly had it. I would say even at times Russell Wilson had it big time, where you could tell his guys were riding for him, and the guys are riding for Purdy. But there's a leadership aspect that has not presented itself because they haven't needed to, that I'm very interested to see if he can display.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And I'm not knocking him. What I'm saying is that when you have established veterans, you don't lead them. You kind of just, play your role. But when you have a bunch of, when Pearsall, let's say, hypothetically, 2 years from now, it's a young Pearsall and another drafted wide receiver and the kid from the 4th round from Arizona out there and a tight end we've never heard of. How's his leadership going to look?
I think Purdy's leadership, actually, first day of practice, may not have seen a lot of leadership, but you know what, though? I go back to what the players say. George Kittle mentioned that he was lollygagging, not getting back in the huddle, and Brock Purdy said, get your ass back in the huddle. What the hell you doing? When he first got the job, when he first got inserted for Jimmy Garoppolo, the players around him said, Brock Purdy commanded that huddle. He owned that huddle. So when it comes to leadership, I don't necessarily worry about that with Brock Purdy. I think these players gravitate around Brock Purdy. I think they love Brock Purdy. I think his leadership is fine. I see a lot more leadership from him than I ever saw from Jimmy Garoppolo. All right? He commands that huddle. So I don't worry about that. The mental, the talking to the players, they gravitate around him. He's a tough guy. I got no problem with Brock Purdy in that department. All I want to see is improvement on the football field. The football field. Leadership, I think he has that. He got voted the captain of the football team for a reason. Trey Lance never got voted for a captain. There was obviously some leadership void there from Trey Lance. He wasn't voted as a captain.
Wasn't Jimmy voted as a captain?
He was, and they, for whatever reason, gravitated towards Jimmy early on, and they made him a captain.
Would you agree that Jimmy's leadership intangibles did diminish over time?
They did. They really did. And I think Brock Purdy's is improving. I think Brock Purdy's a natural born leader, honestly.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that you're not going to be asked to lead Debo. Like, Debo is a kind of a leader in himself, right? Like, when you're the younger guy and you're not making a whole lot and you're on a team of veterans, you got to kind of get in where you fit in, but choose your spots.
And it's also tough to get respect
from
those guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I think Brock Purdy,
granting him that.
I think Brock Purdy from day one, he got that respect. Brendan Ayuk went on the Pivot podcast like, oh, I like Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
That's my quarterback. That dude's good. So I think the respect and the leadership is there for Brock Purdy.
Don't you think he'll be asked to do more, though, as the team evolves around him?
There's no doubt.
Right?
That's
all I was saying.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's going to do more. And I think he wants to do more. I definitely think he wants to do more. But here's
we don't know. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to him.
We talk about fire and coming back from a Super Bowl and being down and out. Here's Brock Purdy on how the team can keep its fire after losing a heartbreaking Super Bowl.
We've all just been there, dude. Like, we've tasted it. Obviously, the Super Bowl, it's a couple plays away from literally being Super Bowl champions. The year before that, NFC Championship. The year before that, NFC. So, like, we have guys in this locker room that taste it and they want it. And, coming back, it was a heartbreak, man, losing that Super Bowl and the way we did it, the overtime, all that. And how badly we want it for this fan base and this organization, man. Like, we want it. And but coming back from like OTAs and then obviously now with camp with having all the guys back, just the way Fred's acting, George, Juice, like these guys that have been in the league for a while, man, they're back ready, like hungry. And I'm going in my year 3, so I'm hungry. But I did the same thing. I walked in, I'm like, how are these guys gonna like seem or feel? And you can feel it, man. They're hungry for it, and we're ready to do it for this organization and the fan base.
What it means to have a normal offseason, Brock Purdy. Here's what he had to say about that.
I got OTAs, I got those reps, just able to build the relationship with the new guys that came in, and then go away for summer and continue to get better at my craft and build off of the reps that I had in OTAs and actually able to watch all the games from last year with Shanahan and Greasy and now being at camp, like, feels good. Like, I feel, ready to roll and excited. Just based off of the growth that I've had this offseason. So I'm nowhere near perfect, but I know I can continue to grow and be better, and I need to be better for this team. So that's how I look at it, but definitely excited, not coming off a UCL again. So
he's had offseason work, although it hasn't happened with Brendan Ayuk, and we want to see that rapport because they've made sweet music together, no doubt about that. But Purdy, are you worried about Big Trent? Because if he doesn't have Big Trent out there protecting his blind side, this offense may look slightly different. Here's what Purdy had to say about Big Trent.
It's first day camp. I know he's dealing with some contract stuff, but, for me, I got to go out there and lead the boys in the first day. Obviously this is a long process in terms of, like, camp, and we got time and all that. So, but for me, my mindset was go out, do my job today, and try to bring some energy to our offense, and that's where my focus was at.
So Purdy leadership, I don't worry about that, Shasky. I just want to see him evolve and get better throwing the ball down the football field. If he could improve a little, and he was really good last season. I get it. He was really good last season in all areas. Just get a little bit better. But the leadership, I don't worry about that with Brock Purdy. I think he's a great leader for this football team. I really do.
Again, as the roster evolves around him, if he ends up getting a big amount of money, he's going to be asked to take on more of that role. And some guys rise to the occasion, some guys don't. We'll see.
Have you seen anything that makes you think that he wouldn't rise to that occasion?
I mean, I didn't see that in Jimmy G, and then all of a sudden Jimmy G
just saying Jimmy G.
Well, no, I'm using a past example.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith. Like, some guys rise and fall to the occasion. We don't know how people are going to respond.
Right.
We just don't. Plus, we don't know how the coaching evolves around him as well. Like, there's a lot of unknown variables,
There
right?
is. So production-wise, he may dip, right? Production-wise, but I think in terms of just leadership and commanding the huddle and commanding that locker room, I think Purdy's fine. He's gonna. They look up to him. He's taking the reins of this offense. He took this offense to another level. His help, and obviously he's got playmakers around him, but he helped take this offense to another level last season. When it comes to just leadership and leading this offense and whether or not guys listen to him and if things change when he gets his money, Brock Purdy's going to be Brock Purdy, and I think Brock Purdy's going to be fine at that department.
Well, everyone evolves, and as you go from 23,
I think he'll get better and rise to that occasion.
36,
He'll rise to that occasion. I don't think, not to cut you off or anything like that. I've seen no signs of him turning into a guy where he's not going to be a leader and he's not going to have a voice. I think he's going to. Yeah, I think he's going to get better and better.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. Like, he's played 2 years. You know, like, we just don't know. And Aaron Rodgers got weird. Russell Wilson got weird. Guys changed at different paces, you know, like Klay Thompson got weird, you know. Steph Curry has become a different version of himself as a leader, you know, from the kid he was at 25, 26 years old to now a 36-year-old father of 4, you know, like your life changes and you change.
Yeah, but
I see Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, went from kind of like quiet, ho-hum dude, and then to what he became later on in his career is a totally different guy, you know? And so we'll see. And I mean the all in a good way. I just keep coming back to this team trying to put together the number one